Before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it becomes a pile of goo. And that's exactly what this podcast is all about. Hi, I'm Dr. Karin Nordin. I'm a behavior change expert and CEO here at Body Brain Alliance. And I'm here to bring you bite-sized stories, conversations, and lessons about the messy, chaotic, and yet absolutely beautiful process of personal reinvention. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, my friends, to the Work of Becoming podcast. This podcast starts with a story about me, which takes place in the summer of 2017. In the summer of 2017, I had just finished 2 years doing my master's degree at the University of Alabama, and I was about to move to Fairfax, Virginia, where I knew no one, to start my PhD at George Mason University, where I would focus on health communication, behavior change, all of the things that I ended up teaching today. This was a huge period of transition in my life. Alabama, my 2 years there, were 2 years of really, really deep healing for me. I've talked a little bit about this before, but I really struggled in undergrad and in high school with depression, with anxiety, with other mental health issues. I had raging undiagnosed ADHD at the time, and it was a situation where I fundamentally didn't feel like I had control over any aspect of my life, and I was deeply, deeply unhappy. I was unhappy with myself. I was unhappy with my surroundings. I was really unhappy. And Alabama was the 2 years where I finally started to come out of that, whether it was the sunshine, being down south all the time, really starting to dig into therapy for the first time, the community of people I was surrounding with, whatever it was 2 years where I finally started to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. And so leaving Alabama was extraordinarily emotional for me. I had just exited a sort of whirlwind of a situationship that absolutely broke my heart, where I had sort of thrown all of me into a boy who was not interested in return, and it was just devastating. And so as I was on the brink of leaving Alabama, I would go to the Riverwalk. Alabama has this beautiful Riverwalk where you can walk along the river, exactly what it sounds like. And I would walk and I would run, and then I would sit on the bench and I would stare at the river and I would watch the sunset and I would listen to music. And I don't know exactly when the playlist was created, but somewhere between the moments where I was sitting on that bench, staring at the sunset, wondering what the hell was going to become of my life, what the hell was next, wondering how Fairfax, Virginia would change me and who I would become, somewhere between there and when I arrived in Fairfax, Virginia, I have a memory of sitting down at a coffee shop and creating this playlist. And the first song on the playlist was This Is Me by Demi Lovato. So if that gives you any indication of the mood I was in, it should. I built this playlist and I called it The Work of Becoming, because I felt like I was in this moment where everything I knew about myself was dissolving. Everything I knew about who I was and how my life worked and what I was capable of and what I wasn't capable of, and what was comfort and what was security, it was all just dissolving. And it was around this time when I first heard I don't know if it's a quotation or if it's just a scientific fact, but it was around this time that I heard the idea for the first time that when a caterpillar moves into the cocoon, when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon, the first thing that happens is it dissolves. It eats itself. It becomes a pile of goo. And that was how I felt in that moment. So I drove across the country to Fairfax, Virginia. I moved in with a bunch of people I didn't know. I started my PhD, and my first semester of my PhD was incredibly difficult for so many reasons that I will not and cannot go into. But that playlist held me together. I remember being in the car on the way there and thinking and wanting to be intentional for the first time about who I became. I remember walking in to my new house with my roommates And they had cleared a space in the fridge for me. And I said, oh, this is awesome, because I'm the kind of person that eats a lot of protein. So you're going to see tons of protein in the fridge from me. Was that true? No. That was in fact a lie. I was not a person who ate a ton of protein at the time, but I knew I wanted to be. And so I stepped into that moment and started acting as this new version of myself. I remember before I even got there, I called the gym down the street and I gave them my credit card over the phone so that I could have a gym membership and I could show up as Karin 2.0. And from day one of my new life in Fairfax, Virginia, I would be Karin 2.0. And so when I started this podcast, when I originally thought about doing a podcast, and those of you who have been around for a while know that this is sort of the second iteration of things. When I wanted to start a podcast, I knew that the work of becoming was going to be the name. And that is because I think this part of change is what we don't talk about. It's the part where you want to change your life in some way. You have this deep, unending, powerful desire to become different, and yet it doesn't feel like you're getting there. It feels like everything is melting. It feels like frustration and difficulty and failure after failure after failure. It feels impossible to get there. Maybe if you're anything like me, it feels like you want things for your life that have always felt impossible. Maybe you've been told that you are not a person who's capable of being consistent. You're not a person who's capable of following through, and you're fighting that, but you're like, is this even possible for me? Do I even want to pursue this? There is a moment in your becoming journey where you will dissolve, where it feels like everything falls apart. And where you're sitting there with your head in your hands going, what the hell do I do next? And that moment is where I hope you come to this podcast. That moment is why I created Body Brain Alliance. That moment is why our student community, for everybody who's purchased something from us, is called The Cocoon, because I wanted to create a place where, at least if we're going to be in goo, we are in goo amongst friends and colleagues and in community. We know from tons of research out there that there is huge power in community, that people with social support are way, way, way more likely than people without it to successfully make the behavior changes that they want. And so I wanted to give an opportunity. I wanted to create this podcast so that every single week I can hop on here and I can give you a little tip, a little trick, a little guidance, a little story, a little hope, something that helps you survive the goo. Because I am on the other side of things now. I am in full butterfly form. I look at my life every day. I'm going to get emotional. I look at my life every day and I think about the fact that if you asked me 15 years ago if this was possible for me, I would say absolutely not, because I'm a person who brushes my teeth every day, and I never believed that was possible for me. I'm a person who exercises consistently, and I never believed that was possible for me. I'm a person that keeps her environment in her room relatively tidy. I'm a person who bakes sourdough as a hobby. I'm a person who has an amazing family and a daughter I love, and I 10, 15 years ago, Karin would not believe that this is my life. But for the past 10 years, I have been using the evidence and the science and choosing to believe that I can become different because I want to, not because I have to, not because there's something broken about me, not because I need to be fixed, but because the process of becoming can be beautiful and thrilling and fun and exciting if you let it, and if you have guidance on your way through it. And so this podcast is for those of you who are doing the work of becoming. You are in the stage where you're a pile of goo. You're frustrated, maybe a little hopeless, maybe a little confused. You don't know where to put your energy. You don't know where to start. And that's okay. That's okay. That is the work of becoming. And I'm going to come on here every single week and hopefully give you some tools and tricks and tidbits and stories that are going to help you feel held and supported as you do that work. Because let me tell you, it is worth it. It is so incredibly worth it once you get to the other side. All right, now that we've gotten through the sappy stuff, the story, the origin of this podcast, let's talk just a little bit about logistics because it's the first episode. This podcast will air every single week, once per week. Every single episode, like I said, is going to give you a tip or trick of a story, something that helps you do the work of becoming. For this first initial launch of this podcast, we are doing something exciting. So if you listen to the first 3 episodes that are available and then you review the podcast, what I want you to do is I want you to screenshot your review and I want you to send it to help@bodybrainalliance.com. If you do so before September 1st, 2026, that is when this giveaway ends, we are going to raffle off a free year-long Change Academy membership to one of the people who makes that review. So Change Academy is my signature membership. A year-long membership is worth over $500. So this is a huge giveaway we're doing. We'll actually probably pick a couple of winners. And this is an opportunity for you to grab that membership for free, which is really exciting. So go ahead and go into Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your designated podcast player is and make that review, screenshot it, send it in. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode.
Struggling to close the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it? It makes sense. In school, you took calculus in English class, but no one ever taught you how to follow through. That's why I created Change Academy, the school where we mix the real science behind self-help with the magic of accountability. Our evidence-based 4-step follow-through protocol helps build a version of you that's unstuck and truly evolving. One behavior, one goal, one quarter at a time. If you're ready to really do the work of becoming and step into the next version of you, visit the Change Academy link in the description to learn more.